special episode of what's this show? Earthborne Games podcast. It's the Kids Table Junior Part 2, the return of the Kids Table.
We don't have any like spicy questions this time though, so we're really not setting ourselves up for more Kids Table shenanigans.
Was that the spicy episode? The first
I think
one?
we had. I mean, like I think.
Oh right.
You were disappointed by the lack of spice in my answers, but we had a couple potentially spicy questions last time about our opinions on Keyforge and other things.
Right. Some
controversy. The spice level was a little bit more like a Minnesota spice level.
Oh, Minnesota, nice.
So no
people
spice.
Were like, yeah, people were.
But I don't think people really tune into this show for spice.
No, that's true. We could, like, if we really wanted to spice it up, we could talk about our opinions on Magic the Gathering's new 30th anniversary booster packs. That would up the spice level, I think.
What's spicy
Man, I'm
about
so out
that?
of touch. I don't even know what that is. You might have to.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a monologue, Fisher.
Wizards announced for their 30th anniversary some booster packs that contain old cards. Cards
right.
like part of the Power 9, Black Lotus, some of the like these like original cards, kind of bringing them back, but they're marked differently. I think they might have different backs, and they aren't legally playable in any tournaments or anything. But the spicy part is that for 4 packs, it's $1,000.
Oh my!
Holy smokes!
Yeah, so they're really expensive. So there's been a lot of spice on the internet about this these last couple weeks. So that is why I joked about it being a spicy topic. Though I think generally the internet, Magic fans and non-fans alike, are in complete agreement about the subject. So I don't know if there's not actually a ton of controversy. I think everybody's upset about it.
So who'd be excited about that?
Are they booster packs like in the traditional sense? They're in a foil package.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's
4
all
of them. Up. It's $1,000 foil package.
Yeah, that package better light up like the briefcase from Pulp Fiction when I open it, right?
I know, and I'd be worried about my hands would be shaking, and then I would maybe pull the packaging too tight, and they'd fly into a puddle or something, and then there goes $1,000.
Have you seen the YouTube channels that like open original alpha packs?
Yeah,
and then
actually,
like you get the video of them open. They find the Black Lotus and their hands are like shaking because they're so excited.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I would love to see you opening the Black Lotus, Evan. You just
I know of Black Lotus, but I don't know of the other legendary ones. So I think if we were to do something like that, the humor would be me just tossing aside super rare cards that I have no understanding of their worth.
Ancestral Recall. That looks like trash. Who wants cards?
Exactly.
Chuck it. Well, Andrew Navarro is in Italy, in case you guys are wondering. Why is he there? I didn't really know he was there.
he is there to go to Lucca. He's going to be at Lucca, where Fantasia will be showing off Rangers. It's a game convention in Italy. And so Andrew's going to be there. And then he also, went with his family, and, they're doing like the Italy tourism thing at the same time. So he kind of turned it into a trip.
He sure did. I saw some pictures in our podcast Discord. Looks pretty sweet. I know you guys didn't respond to it at all.
I said enjoy.
Are you feeling envious? You just said enjoy.
Am I obligated? Like, I don't know. Like, I saw the picture. I am very happy for him, and it looks like fun. Like, do you always have to emoji? Is it passive aggressive to not emoji in response?
I like to respond sounding like a bot. Just a one word response with proper punctuation.
Yeah, I liked your response, Evan. Enjoy.
I would
feel
assume
that
I'm bad at written communication. I think I do this to people via text all the time too, where it's like, I see the text, it doesn't feel like something I need to respond to, so I'm just like, that's cool, and I
me too.
Close it, and then they'll be like, "Are you mad?"
Yeah. I think a good rule of thumb is like, what if use this for example? What if Andrew was showing you physical photographs of his trip. Fisher, would you look at them and just walk away? And Evan would say, "Enjoy."
Well, you haven't been to our Thursday meetings because that's how. No,
yeah, you don't know.
Fisher just silent.
Well, thanks for revealing how poorly I handled that response, and now I'm gonna after this I'm gonna edit my response.
Well, I'm sure Andrew is gonna listen to this, and next week we'll get his. I said looks radical. I think that's the best.
Okay,
I also think
that's a little bit better.
I also think like, hey, if I was sharing something, what do I want to hear back from that? I don't know. There's a lot of philosophy around this whole thing.
I generally, I think I personally like to get just the emoji back, like, somebody's like fire emoji or 100% emoji,
Simple.
and then I'm like, yeah, it's like the like button or, on social media.
It seals the conversation. There's nothing else required, right? Just a little like, and then we can wrap this up. Anyway, Andrew, I'm glad you're near the Coliseum, and I'm in cold ass Minnesota.
I'm happy you're there too, Andrew. I hope you have a good time, and I am excited to see the pictures and hear the stories.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
There we go,
yes.
Guys. Learning how to emote on this show.
This is a learning podcast where we're learning how to act like human beings.
Where men learn how to use their words. Show title right there. Earthborne Rangers. Where men learn how to use their words.
From the kids' table to manhood.
Jeez, gold here.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll miss you, Andrew, and we've got some listener questions. We're going to talk about the cool stuff we're into. You know the drill. Let's start with what we're into for a change. Let's flip the script.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
I said I wouldn't. I said we wouldn't, but now I'm doing it. Let's also
you're mixing it up on us.
Let's flip the order of who goes to. Let's start with Fisher this time. You're always last.
All right.
Is that okay?
I'll start.
Yeah,
that's fine. So I think last time I was talking about I started playing the new Monkey Island game, Return to Monkey Island, and I finished it. It wasn't too long, and it was just pretty good. There are only a couple slightly obtuse puzzles, but nothing as obtuse as like some of the middle games, some of the infamous middle games. There was like one or two times I decided to use the little hint book system they have in the game too, because I was just getting frustrated clicking on everything. But all in all, like, not too bad. The ending was really interesting. I won't spoil it at all, but like the ending took me aback a little bit. And then I ended up watching an interview with Ron Gilbert where I learned that actually the ending to Return to Monkey Island was what how he intended to end the first Monkey Island game.
Wow, interesting.
And he kind of talks about hints that hint towards this ending throughout the series, kind of remnants left over, and he kind of wanted to bring it back, and like, because the whole theme of Return to Monkey Island is they're actually going to reveal the secret of Monkey Island, because the joke is you never find out the secret of Monkey Island, even though that was the name of the game. And so he reveals the secret of Monkey Island, and it's interesting.
Oh man!
So you can go look it up if you don't plan on playing it, but I won't spoil it here.
Was it
so? Oh, go ahead.
Satisfying or not satisfying?
I think the general consensus, it seems, is that it isn't satisfying. In the right kind of media, enjoy the kind of ending it is. Those ones that kind of make you think.
Yeah.
And so especially for a silly game like Monkey Island that I don't have like a ton of investment in, I liked the ending. That kind of made me sit there thinking about what it was trying to say. So I actually kind of liked it. I think it was right for Monkey Island, but I know a lot of people who weren't as happy with it. So
that's kind of, maybe that's the diehard fans, the ones that were playing Monkey Island 20 years ago or however old the game is, were not happy with it.
I mean, I played the game when I was, like 20 years ago as well. I mean, actually practically 30 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you were into those, because those were big games back then, point and click adventures like King's Quest and
oh yeah,
Space Quest.
Yeah, we played all sorts of point and click adventures with my dad. My brother and I would sit with my dad in our basement, our moldy basement, on our computer, and just play. Like we played Myst. We played a bunch of the old point and click adventures. But I was a kid, right? So I don't know if I'm as invested in Monkey Island as somebody who was a little older when they played the first ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had my dad's friend was a big computer guy, and he would always give us his old machines when he would upgrade. So we had a Commodore 64, and there's a lot of fun games on that. And then eventually we had an Amiga, and that was cool.
Yeah.
And he he had a point and click adventure game on there. He didn't like wipe the hard drive or whatever. And it's called Leisure Suit Larry, which is kind of an adult point and click adventure game. And you had to answer questions like age, there's like an age restriction barrier that you had to get through where you answer questions like, who's Nixon or whatever. And it was like, dated questions regarding 70s politics and stuff.
There's no Google back then.
Yeah. So
what if you're just a dummy though? What if you're
we got really good at it. We learned some history answering those questions.
Hey mom, who is Richard Nixon?
Right?
Yeah. At least Leisure Suit Larry managed to teach you a couple things before corrupting you.
Yeah, I know.
What is that? Is that game really like that pornographic, or is it just kind of cartoony?
It's just an adult game that has it's censored. It's just adult humor essentially.
Yeah. I know that they did.
Yeah, and I'm sure. I have not looked at these games in 20 plus years. I'm confident in stating that they probably haven't aged super well.
No.
Oh yeah, in terms of what's appropriate to say.
Yeah.
Oh, of course not.
Well, other than point and click adventures, actually kind of in the same vein, after I finished up Monkey Island, I've gotten started on The Forgotten City, which has been pretty cool. It's kind of a mystery game. It's leaving Game Pass soon, so people want to check it out and have Game Pass. You should do so soon. It's gotten the leaving soon warning, so I'm trying to get it done before it leaves the platform.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. It was actually originally a Skyrim mod. I don't know if we've talked about it before, but it was a Skyrim mod that got so popular they remade it in Unreal Engine, just standalone.
Cool.
But its legacy as a Skyrim mod it's very apparent that it was a Skyrim mod. Like, even though they ported it all over, you can still feel the Skyrim in it. Like, a lot of the things work a lot like Skyrim. A lot of the people animate a lot like Skyrim. It's
does this game involve time travel or something?
Yeah, there's a time loop.
Okay, all right. I've watched a lengthy YouTube video on it. I'm somewhat familiar. I'm curious about it.
Don't spoil.
And there's no combat or anything, right? It's just kind of
there. I think there is a little bit actually, but I've heard it's mostly superfluous, and it doesn't really add, because the core of it is that you're at this ancient Roman city where if they have this rule called the Golden Rule, and if anybody sins, everybody in the city immediately turns to gold, or maybe not immediately, but soon turns to gold. And you know that somebody is going to shortly sin. And so you have to figure out who's going to sin by whatever definition these weird magical rules define sin. And that's part of the mystery, is how you define sin. And you have to figure out who it is. So it's kind of this mystery game. And, you quickly talk to there's 20 something residents of this little town, and they're all about to sin. And so you have to figure out which one it actually is, because everybody's got some kind of conflict with somebody else. And so it's been pretty fun.
That sounds really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Other stuff, I played Wonderland Wars for the first time. Big Kickstarter board game. My friend Cassie, she had the whole Kickstarter, so we had the nice tokens and everything, and it was pretty fun. It as with a lot of big Kickstarters, I say on a podcast about a Kickstarter, but it's fairly overproduced. There's just a ton of bits and stuff, but the game is a pretty solid little game. It kind of reminds me of some of those Eric Lang designs, Rising Sun or Blood Rage before it, in this kind of abstract area control game with characters and kind of Euro style mechanics feeding into this area control game. It has like a rondel, it has bag building, it has area control, it has like it's a ton of different mechanics, but we really enjoyed it.
I'm not familiar with all those mechanics.
I said that Moonbreaker came out. I remember that you were talking about that before.
Oh yeah, the minis. Yeah, it came out on early access, right?
Yeah.
I actually haven't played it since the playtesting phase, so I haven't actually played it in launch itself. I am curious to check it out because in the playtesting they just gave you access to everything, so you didn't like interact with the game through the like collection and unlocking mechanisms weren't in there. So I'm curious to like actually start unlocking things. But it's going to be hard after having everything. Going back to having nothing is going to be
yeah.
a little challenging.
I saw a criticism was that their monetization was kind of problematic or something, like in-game transactions.
Oh, really? Yeah, a little pay to win or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly why. I stopped watching the review.
The monetization wasn't, like I said, it wasn't in the playtest, so I can't really speak to it. I haven't actually played that yet.
I find it, I don't like when a game is like, I think it's like $30 or $40, and then there's also more to buy within the game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Feels bad to me. I just skip it if I see that.
Yeah, like if you're paying $30, you want like all the playable content up front.
Yeah, I want to unlock it in different ways. You know, maybe.
Yeah, that's fair.
Anywho, yeah, you want to talk about anything else on your list, or?
The last thing is that I've been kind of getting back into tabletop role-playing games again. And so I would just be curious, anybody out there have recommendations? What is like your favorite system? I've been like kind of I haven't played as many due to the last couple of years. It was a little more difficult to get together with people. And so we've been kind of trying to get back into RPGs. I've got stuff on my nightstand right now, like Blades in the Dark, and a couple other systems. But I'd be curious for listeners' recommendations as to what's your favorite RPG system. Looking for stuff a little more off the beaten path. Obviously, I've played a ton of Dungeons and Dragons, but I'm curious what your favorite alternate system is. So throw it in the comments. Let me know. I'd be curious to hear.
Do you ever go to the source and just look at that huge wall of RPG books?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was actually there last weekend, and it just kind of staring at the wall.
Yeah. It's intimidating.
It is. I was thinking about actually picking up Mutants and Masterminds, and not a new RPG. It's been around for a long time. Jonathan Ying, one of our former coworkers, really loves that system, and so I'd been curious to check it out and run a superhero campaign in it at some point.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Awesome.
But that's it. That's what I've been into lately.
Cool. Well, I said last week that I was getting a Steam Deck, and it came the day after the podcast. So that's all I've been doing is playing with my Steam Deck. I've been kind of like in an obsessed with video games mode because it's awesome. I love the Steam Deck. If anybody's on the fence, just get it. Even though it's like gigantic, it gets super hot. The fan is super loud. The battery is like 1 hour, lasts like 1 hour. It's still amazing. I still love it.
It sounds like a Sega Nomad.
What's that? Nomad?
It's like a precursor to the Sega handheld device.
Yeah.
Whatever that was.
Right.
The Nomad. It was this huge thing with a tiny screen. I know the Steam Deck doesn't have a tiny screen, but it had battery problems. And
so is the Game Gear also had a tiny screen. I was looking at that the other day. That's the second Sega thing. Yeah, the Nomad. Anyway, Steam Deck rules. I love it.
What have you been playing on it?
I played more Dome Keeper, and then I played some of this game Elec Head, which is this puzzle game with this little robot where you like throw his head around, and it's just a brilliant puzzle game. But mostly I've been playing Elden Ring, and I freaking love that game so much. It's so good. It's my kind of game for sure.
Is this your first time playing it?
Oh yeah. It's my first time. So I put in
how far along are you?
In terms of level, or just
are you at a boss at the moment? What area are you in?
I haven't even I'm kind of afraid of the bosses. Whenever I encounter one, I run away, and I'm mostly just loving exploration. I was kind of worried when I bought the game, like, is this gonna just be this, because I know it's kind of mysterious and there's not a lot of dialogue and it doesn't really give you much, and I liked that, but then I was kind of worried that it was gonna feel empty and kind of, just a bunch of baddies running around, and then but man, it's just chock full of weird little details that you discover, and I love that so much. Like, what is that thing over there? Let's go see. And it's something super bizarre, and it doesn't tell you what it is, and you're like, I guess I'll figure that out later because it's not giving me anything here.
Oops. Yeah, that opening area is super dense with things to find and little dungeons and stuff. Yeah, I think you could spend like 50 hours just exploring that first area.
Right, and then I went in this well, or this like whatever, this elevator, and went down, a bunch. Did you guys get to that giant elevator?
I haven't played it.
And there's this underground region that's just beautiful and gigantic. I don't know. The way the game just keeps opening up in new ways is incredible. It's so cool. You haven't played it, Evan?
No. I was going to say that the detail level you're describing sounds really interesting, but I'm afraid it would be overwhelming to me. Like, I would want to tie up all the loose ends narratively and figure out what the hell's going on every time I stumble across some sort of Easter egg or something.
I think that's the beauty of it, is that there's not really a narrative happening, at least yet. It's just totally vague and mysterious. And when you encounter an NPC that has some sort of like quest for you, it doesn't feel like it's a true like quest. It feels more like, okay, I'm going to just keep going. I'll beat the game and I'll probably want more. And then maybe next year I'll come in and I'll go talk to that guy again and I'll go try to figure out what he wanted from me, but it's not really necessary to like progress the story. And it has like a golden path. It shows you like, go this way if you want to do the main story, but the game is so much bigger than that, I think. It's so cool.
Yeah, a lot of the storytelling is kind of passive through world building, where like you kind of absorb it as you explore the world. It's very open-ended, open world design, a la Breath of the Wild, if you've played that.
Okay. It's just like Breath of the Wild, except I think 10 times the variety in characters.
And made by FromSoft, so a lot more brutal.
A lot more brutal. Yeah. And just weird. Like I love, like right away I saw these goats, and when I walked up to them, they like formed into a little ball and like rolled away. So they have rolling goats. Just stuff like that is it's my bread and butter. Just like creepy, weird, beautiful. Yeah, there's so much to say about that game. I can't stop thinking about it. I have dreams about it. I literally, yeah.
Do you play the Steam Deck in bed?
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah. Oh, that's why it's invading your dreams right there.
Yeah, that's the only time I play it. Play for a couple hours at night. The fan like overpowers the audio. It's that
really
loud. So I'm like, is that the fan or the weird sound in the game? And it's the fan. But yeah, the Steam Deck
just taking off in your hands.
Yeah, and the graphics are amazing, and the loading times are fast. It's a pretty incredible device. Highly recommend it. Yeah, that's all I've been doing. Elden Ring.
What have you been up to, Evan?
Not a whole lot. I had a week off. What was that, 2 weeks ago? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
But I wanted to try to make some personal art again, because I just haven't had time up until recently. So I made one piece of art, and now that work on Rangers, the core game, is kind of behind us for the most part, I want to start sharing some of that art that's been made publicly available already. So I'm hoping to kind of revive my Instagram account through having personal time to make just, I don't know, like fantasy art or whatever.
Yeah, I saw that
D&D art.
Yeah, I saw that elf. Pretty awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Check out Salt Cough, everybody.
Yeah. So yeah, so So I'm doing that, and so now that our daughter has more of a consistent sleep schedule, Megan and I have been trying to get back into Hero Quest, because she's been thinking about it a lot, which I love, because Megan's just not like a board game person, but she really enjoyed playing Hero Quest throughout the pandemic because there's just nothing else to do, and I loved how she invented kind of a narrative between all the four players, the four characters in that game. Um, so we're continuing to play that in the expansions, and we're playing Return of the Witch King. And after giving it up and setting it down a couple times, we're finally back into playing through the missions, and it's more enjoyable for me now because the app is now available to play. I don't have to be the DM and be a player with her, so I can be surprised with her. It's a cooperative experience now. So just aside from a little bit of managing on the app, it's been a pretty enjoyable experience. I will say the app doesn't let you edit your mistakes or undo things if I accidentally moved a character into the wrong room or forgot to move a character after moving them on the board, the app won't, unless there's a feature I'm missing, the app won't let me go back, and it'll act out on the scenario in the digital environment. So then I have to quick kind of adapt to that without making it feel like I've ruined the experience for both of us. But it makes combat really smooth and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Well, I have some sympathy for their app designers potentially. That was
I know. I bet you do.
My team worked on Descent, Mansions of Madness, Lord of the Rings, Journeys to Middle Earth, all these different app games, and we did not have a back button because the whole way the entire engine and data structures of the game were built, and memory management is handled inside the app. Going back was just a ludicrously difficult programming task to implement that into the game and the way it was constructed, just because of the way the branching and randomness and everything was handled. And it was our most requested feature. So when we made Descent Legends of the Dark, the newest app integrated game from FFG, we actually rebuilt the engine from scratch with one of our headline features was we are building it from the ground up to make undo possible. And Mark Jones, our programmer at the time, did all this work to make undo possible. So I have some appreciation for how difficult implementing undo can, something that seems simple like undo can be in a game engine that has to move forward and dump memory behind it.
From my perspective, it seems like it'd be an easy feature that's overlooked, but I have no idea the work that goes into that sort of thing. So I'm just raging at the app with ignorantly. No, I'm not getting that mad. It's not terrible. It doesn't ruin the experience really. So beyond that, the other thing I want to get into with more free time is this app I got off Steam called I think it's pronounced Asperite.
Asperite?
It's like
pronounced.
Yeah, it's a pixel art program.
I've used it.
Have you used it?
Yeah, that's how I made Pistols at Dawn.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you did all the animation and stuff too in that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
It's awesome.
Experiencing that, and I'm mainly interested in making tile sheets. I just love doing that as like a hobby, or I used to years ago. It's just harder to set up a document in Photoshop when Photoshop's so robust to try to dumb it down to a bitmap, limited color, non-interlaced sort of environment to make pixel art. It's just kind of a hassle. So
you have to disable all of these advanced features basically,
exactly.
And counteract advanced features.
Evan, let's collaborate and make a 2D side-scrolling Earthborne Rangers.
I would love
platformer.
That would be really cool
for when the game launches.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Okay. This is an Earthborne podcast. Let's not make any promises here. Okay, but collaborating on a little game would be super fun. I know enough coding to script something together in Unity if you make sprite sheets, Evan.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I would love to. I almost, I don't think sprite art is recognized as an art form when I think it really is. I mean, the way you can express a figure with limited pixels takes some talent. I don't know how to just articulate that, but you can look at pixel art and just your mind understands what it's representing with such little information, and there's so many ways to not do that right.
I think it comes down to the animation a ton.
Yeah.
It can be.
I know there's a good
4 blocks, 2 colors, or 4 pixels, 2 colors, and with the right animation, it could do so much. Yeah.
I know there's a good community of indie video game developers who are very into pixel art on Twitter, at least. I'm sure there's plenty on Instagram. If you're getting back into Instagram, I bet you could find some pixel artists to follow.
I do follow
inspiration.
A lot. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Pixel art rules. I don't think it'll ever go away.
Isometric art.
It's like really the cool language of like the first video games. Why would we ever, why would it ever go away?
Yeah, it's exactly. I think it's definitely calcified into kind of like a style, right? Like it is an aesthetic that people will keep exploring.
Yeah, it's not like often a thing.
Whenever a new pixel art game becomes popular in the reviews, it's always another retro pixel art. But I don't even think of it as retro anymore.
Yeah, no.
It's just that's the style this game's going for. And the way they can blend it with different, lighting effects and stuff, it's really cool these days. Evan, go on.
That's what I'm into. That stuff.
Yeah. So. Earthborne Rangers, the video game.
Stop
you heard it here. Promises. You heard it here first, folks.
I'm down.
We're already so busy.
I'm down. No, it's after the board game, after the card game.
This is not a legally binding promise.
Has there been a pixel art video game card game?
Yeah.
Has there?
Yeah, there's definitely a Slay the Spire like that has kind of pixel art.
Is there?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I know because of my obsession with Mega Man. There was like a Mega Man card game that just had lifted the pixel art.
Okay.
But I think it's an extension of a base system that leans into the pixel art aesthetic.
I just want to see Earthborne art pixel art version. That is what I'm wanting.
I think I was thinking of Overrogue, which kind of like has a bit more. It's looking like Final Fantasy inspirations.
Yeah. Pixel Tactics is what I am remembering. Some sort of card game.
Well, as those two do their research, I'm
gonna start Googling roguelites.
Yeah.
Just a minute of the three of us solidly just typing.
Keyboard.
Let's get to some listener questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
First off, we got some bites on our request for who do you want to see direct the next Lord of the Rings trilogy? Because we know it's going to happen, right? It's bound to happen. The first one came out in like 2001, 99. When was the first
turn of the millennium ish?
Yeah, which I can't believe that.
I know.
Here are some of your suggestions. Tim Burton. I liked that one. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, he has a very distinctive style. So we were talking about who would bring like a new aesthetic.
Yeah, it's all about the aesthetic.
Yeah.
And my favorite was with Denis Villeneuve. How do you say his name? Denis Villeneuve.
I don't know.
I think it's Denis Villeneuve. He did Arrival, right?
Yep, and the new Dune.
Blade Runner. Blade Runner. Did you do Blade Runner?
Yep. Yeah,
okay.
the new one.
I think the cinematography would be great in his version of it.
Oh yeah, he would bring a grandeur to it. I think Denny is my favorite answer. I think he would bring a just vibes to Lord of the Rings that Peter Jackson that would be very different than Peter Jackson's.
Yeah, because I don't think of vibes when I think of Peter Jackson, unless it's the Get Back Beatles documentary. He's got his own thing, but I feel like in the Lord of the Rings, he kind of, I don't know. I wouldn't have known it was him on first glance if I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then Did we talk about Wes Anderson together after the show?
Yeah, we talked about
stopped?
Wes Anderson a bit after the show.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
talked
we talked about
stopped.
Wes Anderson a bit last time, but other people chimed in and mentioned him.
Wasn't that
I
off the
think
air?
he'd be a
I think
better
we
fit
talked
for The
about
Hobbit, personally,
yeah, it's
than Lord of the
smaller
Rings.
scales. Yeah. Guillermo del Toro. I get him and Peter Jackson mixed up. I think probably because of the way they look physically as human beings. Uh, but he'd be cool too. It would have more heart, maybe a little creepier.
Oh yeah, definitely more
creepier.
creepy. Yeah.
And then Jorodowski's Lord of the Rings, starring Nick Cage as Aragorn. Why does Nick Cage go with Jorodowski?
I'm not sure. There's got to be a story there, right?
Yeah, but it sounds pretty badass. That would be the campiest, I think, of them all.
Yeah, just full like '90s ridiculousness.
I would watch any of these. I want a sequel now, or not a sequel, but another go at it.
As long as
every 20 years for eternity.
I want Jodorowsky starring Nick Cage just for the audacity of that project. I think.
I would want Nick Cage's hairstyle from Con Air.
In the movie,
that's the best.
Why does Nicolas Cage have the strangest hair all the time? Is it because he doesn't really have hair?
I don't know.
So he's got the weirdest hair. In the National Treasure.
Mm-hmm.
We're not breaking new ground in talking about Nick Cage's hair right now. I know it's been talked about endlessly. So let's move on to this question from Kyle Dellis. After last episode's discussion, what themes from your enjoyment of Tolkien's works? Tolkien? That sounds weird. Is that how you say it?
Tolkien?
Tolkien. J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't know. I feel like I don't say it with my mouth very often. I just read it. Anyway, the guy who did Lord of the Rings works, have you found their way into Earthborne Rangers?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I kind of wish Andrew was here for this. I think he would be able to speak to it pretty eloquently. I think like there's a good number of overlaps between Rangers and Tolkien's work. There's definitely a lot of, to use a word I used for Denny's stuff, there's a lot of vibes that are similar to, especially to the more pastoral parts of Lord of the Rings, like the Shire. There's a lot of overlap between that and the Valley. I think that Tolkien's work explores a lot about kind of like friendship and like the bonds that are made between other people. And we do a lot of that. There's definitely kind of themes of nature versus technology. And you see that in like the Uruk-hai's, like machines and the destruction of natures and the Ents and stuff. Themes of like growing up and loss, I think are things that you can see kind of reflected. There's themes of like growing up and discovering the world in joining the Rangers in our game, and themes of like myth, legacy, and like how the past impacts the present. Those kind of feelings of history that Lord of the Rings has, we also explore. I'd say that some things that he explores that we don't might be things like, he explores war a lot, obviously, and the impacts of war on people and cultures. We're kind of, in a society kind of post-war. And so we almost explore the absence of that in a way. He has a lot of themes of death and immortality, which we at least have up until this point have not explored too much. And he explores like fate versus free will, and we don't do as much of that. We're more kind of like grounded in the present than like kind of doing these speculations about fate and stuff. So I don't think we explore that as much. But definitely a lot of those vibes and nature and friendship and those kind of themes, I think we really explore.
Awesome. And Evan, you were inspired by something Lord of the Rings in your art.
Yeah, I mean, I got this book right here, actually. I loved his art, so I went as far as.
Oh yeah.
Am I holding in the right spot here?
Can you put it like in front of your face?
Yeah, front and center.
So, this was the sort of aesthetic I was really inspired by.
What is that book?
For this is just a collection of Tolkien's art.
Did he drew that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of watercolor and pen and ink drawings that he did, and some of them have been updated by another artist later on. Like here, this is a good example from The Hobbit. This is his original, and then it was updated by someone in the 70s, I think.
Oh, so he did like a black and white pen and ink of that piece, and then somebody kind of came in and added the color to it.
Hey, it's sort of like you and other guy.
Joe, yeah.
Joe, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think his art is so charming and captivating. There's this repetition in the natural environment that is it almost reminds me of like Sleeping Beauty, if you remember those the background art in that movie. It's a lot of stylized forest with like almost geometric shaped bushes and things, and I love that look. Everything looks so, I don't know, like curated or something. And there's like this folk art sensibility that he brings that I wanted to inject into Rangers, just to like, my hope was that people would see that and resonate the same way that it does with me. So that's the angle I entered this project from. Or how it developed, I guess. That's so cool. This book is great. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing you hold up some of those pieces. I've obviously seen like the covers and stuff inspired by that style, and then the covers of our game that we kind of pulled some of that style for.
Yeah.
But looking at some of that art, I can see the inspiration that went into like the path card backs, or even like art pieces like the Philosopher's Garden. When you finally open the game, you can check out the Philosopher's Garden. I think you'll see some inspiration from that in kind of how we rendered that area.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was just the box art that you were drawing from, but it's cool to hear how it is elsewhere in the game. It's art.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the question, Kyle. Our next question comes from Darren via email. What are your thoughts on user-generated content? Will you be releasing card templates for the public to create custom specializations, backgrounds, terrain, locations, missions, etc.? And Andrew had some thoughts. Andrew Navarro. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we can kind of sum up what he said. We don't need to necessarily read.
You go ahead, Fisher, because I have no clue.
What he put in the document. But
yeah.
Obviously, like, we'd be very excited to see user-generated content and fan-made content. We probably aren't going to set up anything where fans will be able to sell work derived from our property, but fans can definitely make work derived from our property, and share it. Especially, one of the things we've been trying to structure the game around is the ability to easily create new stories using the same game pieces. A lot of the cards that represent characters just link to a single journal entry in the book, and then that journal entry handles all the logic. Part of the reason we did that, so the card might be 57, and it sends you out to entry 57, and then entry 57 figures out what context you're encountering this person at. Part of the reason we did that is so that these cards aren't specifically designed to exactly where they show up, but then they can be reused, and that same person can show up in multiple contexts and be used by the game systems in different ways. And this is going to enable us to do release future event content, new quests and stuff that reuse the same characters. The same characters from the game might show up in different contexts and do different things in the game, just kind of driven by these add-ons to the campaign guide, these kind of little DLC adventures that you'll be able to play. And so that's something we've kind of designed the game with the intention of adding on, and it would be something that would be very easy for users to make their own little RPG stories using all of the pieces of the game. And so I'm really hoping we see some stories told by fans who make their own little like stories and missions within the game itself. Beyond that, as far as releasing card templates, I'm not sure if we'll go so far as to like release a broken down file, but if I'm being honest, those tools will probably end up existing. There are websites that have taken like other card games, like the Arkham Horror card game, and broken down the card templates so that you can create your own user-made cards, and I'm sure that will exist for this as well. We're not necessarily going to be supporting it ourselves, as in like, we won't have all those assets available on our website, but as long as people aren't selling it, we are going to be happy and excited for people to make and share their own content in our game. So we'll be releasing some of our own little standalone adventures that can add on to the game, but I'm very excited to see what people might make using it. So
yeah, awesome. Alrighty, our next question comes from Emma. With all the different art shown on the cards last episode being done by different artists, how do you keep a consistent style across the product within a given card type, I guess? Or are you okay with art being different styles?
So I can answer this one. I kind of started writing it down right before the podcast, but so I didn't watch the whole or listen to the whole podcast last time, but I know Andrew he shared the 3 different art styles for the Ranger cards, right? Attachment.
Yep, we kind of showed off the different styles and talked about like kind of the rationale behind them and stuff.
Yeah. So the attachment art had a dedicated artist who did all of the attachment art. That was Rob Lasky. And the moment art was the same way with Wayne O'Connor. So all those art types are very as consistent as they can be. The remaining art for Ranger cards and the Path cards, which is art depicting more physical, in your face things that you can find or use or encounter, like gear and beings and features and stuff. That there was so much of that one artist couldn't possibly do it all alone. So I had to search out as many artists as I could find who had availability, who had a style that was similar, or who could adopt a similar style. And I just had a document I shared with them about some of the key elements of that style that I wanted to try to maintain as much as possible, like the cell shaded quality of highlight and shadow, strong line art, and that's about as much as I could ask for. And I really you can't wrangle artists to all fall in under a cohesive style banner. So you really just have to embrace where they depart from each other. And I think that all the art is very cohesive, but it's uniquely, special as well. And it's not really something that you can control, or I'd want to control too much. So
I did, some art for the game, and I felt like when I started the first piece, it seemed like I may be wrong, but it seemed like you had a little bit more of a strict idea. I think this was before you even hired other artists. A strict idea of, it has to be this way. And then the final piece, it seemed like you were a little more, as the art director, kind of lax about, using more gradients and stuff like that.
For sure. I going into that role being completely new to me, I thought I had to have these parameters and structures in place and keep everyone in line with the vision I had and the vision Andrew wanted me to go for. But quickly realized that that's not really the case, and it shouldn't be the case. And I just ended up embracing what the style became. I had a very strong idea of, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but in my mind going into this project, I was really inspired by like Studio Ghibli,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea of animation, like animated cells, animated frames on top of a painterly background. I just love that. I wanted to see that in the game, and that's the entry point that I went into this with. So a lot of the location art is very painterly. Like Zhang, he was one of the first artists I found, and he was doing exactly what I wanted. And all the other artists who did location art did amazing stuff. But at a certain point, it just kind of the Ranger style became its own thing, and it was no longer what I thought it should be going into it, and it just became something unique. So.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to do much like color grading or anything? Do you do anything like after the artists turn in the stuff to kind of unify it, or does it usually just kind of like, I guess, yeah, do you do any cleanup passes, or is it usually handled by the artist?
Yeah, so what I learned was, well, Anders, you can speak to this. Like, there's only so much, like, at a certain point, the artist is just like they're just done, and I can't ask any more of them because of their scheduling and because of our schedule. So there are times where I have to touch up pieces based on something Andrew asks of me, or if I just think that the art needs to be just tweaked just a little bit. But it's usually just adjusting the lighting. There's this
Mhm.
one aesthetic in all the art is this dramatic lighting. Um, like a strong direct light, not falling directly, not fully illuminating, but hitting the side of a figure, and then some rim lighting, like cool environmental lighting, reflecting off the opposing side of a figure or a feature. So sometimes I would just go into the art and just pump that up a little bit, just so everything looked a little bit more cohesive.
And
Yeah,
I
there's a
sure.
lot of like kind of haze getting illuminated by the sun, or like
Yeah,
sunbeams, I've noticed, and I
Mm-hmm.
it's one of my favorite qualities of the art is that kind of
cool,
ethereal glow that a lot of the art has.
cool. Yeah, well, um, I'm looking forward to modifying. I learned a lot um,
Mm-hmm.
over the course of this, and I look forward to letting go where I need to let go and just letting artists do their thing, and then also revisiting things that I can pump up a little bit and adjust. So
I loved when I would turn in something to you to see if it was done, and 5 minutes later you'd send me back something that you've fully added something to, a bunch of like that hazy blue lighting. Just you can do it so fast, and you're like, hey, could you just do this? Here's an example of how to do it. But it took you like 5 minutes, and then it would take me like 2 hours because you've been doing it forever. I just wanted to be like, can we just use the one you just did?
well, I mean,
But
yeah, I had to do that. I mean, I was doing so much art that I just kind of fine tuned the process.
yeah,
But at the
it's
same time, I
great.
don't want to just use my edits. Like I'd rather give the artist an opportunity to
Right, it would
do
be
the
a little.
thing I'm asking.
Yeah, it would come out a lot cleaner, the way we did
Yeah,
it.
is
But
totally, yeah.
cool. All right. Our next question is from Steen. I don't know. Lamers.
I think it's like halfway between like Stan and Stan. So like Stan.
Stan. It sounds like a Nordic name,
Yeah,
probably.
Stan.
Cool name. Can't say it. Stain. Love the post-apocalyptic recommendations. Would love to hear more books, movies, video games, and board games that are in some way similar to Earthborne Rangers.
Yeah, I've got a few. Like we talked about a lot of books last time, different kind of post-apocalyptic books that were a little on the optimistic side. So naturally, those have some similarities. Looking at other media, so I think we've mentioned before. I think other fans have picked up. I think there's a lot of similarities to be drawn between this and Horizon Zero Dawn.
Mm.
There's kind of this post-apocalyptic world with the society that's popped up in it, and a landscape that's dramatically transformed by the humans who came before. And there's a certain amount of archaeology of uncovering the world before. And so in that way, there's a there are a lot of similarities between us and Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn is more focused on this kind of like tribal or feudal conflicts, and obviously is a lot more robot focused, whereas we're more kind of environmental focused. But I think there's a lot of similarity. You'll find a lot of similarities there. In board games, I kind of struggled to come up with super concrete examples, but obviously, if you kind of want to explore the more just kind of nature and natural environment vibes, there's actually been a lot of good examples lately, from Keystone, from Rose Gauntlet Games, to Cascadia. Obviously, I think it won the Spiel, so that one's pretty prominent. There was also a cute one that I saw on Kickstarter recently called Trailblazers, that is a little game about hiking. It's like a little tile laying game, and you have little animal meeples, and you go on a little hike. And while it's not environmentally sustainable to build it this way, they made it all plastic so that you can, and it's in a little Ziploc bag thing, or like fabric zip bag thing, so you can actually take it camping and dunk it in water, and the game is fine, which I appreciate as somebody who likes to play games well up at the Boundary Waters.
Yeah, that's cool.
Another game that kind of gets those wilderness hiking vibes, a video game. It's a small indie game called A Short Hike.
Oh, I love that game.
Know if
I love
yeah,
it.
it's got kind of the cozy vibes, and you go on this little hike and like meet all these other characters, and in that way, I think there's a lot of similarities. It's a very short little play, and like very charming, and I strongly recommend it.
Go ahead. Game Pass. Well, I think it's on Game Pass, and I think it's like $6. It's such a good deal, and it's such a
cool
game. It's like a mini Breath of the Wild. I don't know. It's just perfect game in my opinion. Dialogue is it's short and snappy and funny, and there's like just enough leveling up. Like I love that game. Check it out.
Yeah, it's charming, and like you said, it's short and sweet, but like just incredibly satisfying, and has little open world vibes. So highly recommend that little game.
Yeah, just like soaring, like gliding around as this little crow character is really nice. Cool. I wouldn't have thought of that to compare to Earthborne, but it makes total sense now.
And my last piece of media, this is a weird one, but like I was just struck by what like a lot of the similarities is actually an advertisement for Chobani yogurt. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I think it's called like Dear Alice.
It's an animated one, right?
Yeah.
Because I was looking into the artists who did background paintings for that.
It's beautiful. It is.
I have a list. I mean, there's several artists involved. I don't remember the names off the top of my head.
But if you haven't seen it, I know I'm telling you to go look up an advertisement, but it's beautiful.
I know.
It's very kind of Studio Ghibli vibes, and it's kind of this utopian future society where people are living in this pastoral setting with these robots, and like the vibes are so Earthborne Rangers that I highly recommend going and watching this little ad.
Yeah, there's like these floating wind farms and stuff like that, I think, just hinted at in the background. It's kind of near future. I get the sense like it's maybe 100 years in the future or something.
This is total Studio Ghibli. I'm watching it right now.
Yeah, it's a little more like high tech, and like there's a big city. So in that way, that doesn't quite mesh with Rangers. But there's so like that the scene where everybody's around, all these different people are around the table, like looks like the thank you piece of art you did for the Kickstarter.
Exactly.
This is so Earthborne. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have thought that immediately when I saw this. Even like the little gadgets and technology. Oh yes, there's the table. What?
Yep.
The lighting this is crazy.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I hate to say it, but it's a beautiful commercial.
Chobani's good. It's my daughter's favorite food right now, so let's give it some credit.
Along those lines, Fisher.
That's a pretty healthy. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Evan.
Oh no. I was just gonna say, Travel Oregon did a couple ad campaigns that are in a similar vein.
Oh yeah.
but they use like anime Ghibli style. I keep saying Ghibli. I mean Ghibli style.
Is it Ghibli or Studio Ghibli?
I think it's Ghibli, but I could be wrong.
I don't think anybody
GIF versus
knows.
GIF.
Yeah. Nobody knows how to do a G anymore.
We're gonna get some angry comments being like, "It is clearly this pronunciation, you guys."
I know.
I've been mispronouncing tons of stuff this show.
We'll just call the episode Tolkien Ghibli.
Jorodowski. I would say that this Chobani ad, Chobani,
I think it's Chobani.
is the most Earthborne of anything
Totally.
you mentioned.
I mean, I was pulling that ad apart, trying to find who did it and what artists were used, because I was super intrigued by it, and I'm like, this is perfect, just like what you're saying, Anders.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Rutabaga. You guys know what I'm talking about. Sustainability corner. Do we have something to say? We haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, I brought it back in the show notes. I just wanted to shout out a couple cool kind of sustainability notes. One is, I think we've mentioned a little bit, but Daybreak is a new game from Matt Leacock that's been on BackerKit. I think it's ending today though, so by the time this airs, but you probably you'll probably be able to late pledge it. I'm sure most of our backers are aware of it, but they're very focused on sustainability, both in the theme of the game and in the production. It's FSC, no plastic, etc. And also, nice. I wanted to give a shout out to Stonemaier Games. They continue to, right around the time we were doing our Kickstarter, Jamie posted that he wanted to take a bigger focus with Stonemaier Games production and a lot more transparency on how sustainable their games are. And Stonemaier started doing a chart that showed different sustainability goals for all their games. And, over a year later, he's still keeping it up and like regularly posting. And they just recently posted about some breakthroughs. The new Wingspan is printing with a sustainable packaging, and their two new games, Between Two Cities, Essential and Smitten, are both their most sustainable games yet. They, much like Daybreak, are printing at Panda. So both of them are printing in China. But Panda is one of the largest board game manufacturers in the world, for those who don't know. But Panda has, gotten FSC paper and has made a lot of these breakthroughs. And so I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to both Stonemaier and Matt Leacock's new game Daybreak in kind of focusing on sustainability and like continuing and pushing it forward.
Mm-hmm. You guys started it all. I think they're just copying Earthborne.
Other people have focused on this before, but
I don't think anyone's talked about sustainability before Earthborne.
Nope.
It's a rather niche.
Jamie did credit us in the first article as he was kind of focusing on it for Stonemaier. He
that's cool.
Yeah, he specifically mentioned our campaign as kind of inspiring him to start this journey, and so I do think we had a small impact on kind of moving the industry forward here.
And we want to have a small impact, right? Isn't that the name of the game? I don't know what I'm saying.
Big impact, I guess.
Cool. All right. And also, I don't want to alienate our viewers. When I said Rutabaga earlier, that's our code for something. And I don't want to say what it is. That would defeat the purpose, but it was a code to signal to you guys something about this show. If you figure it out, leave it in the comments. All right. We're moving on to work stories. Anything you guys want to share that we haven't shared yet in the show? Go for it.
Yeah, we have a few big pieces of news as far as the project goes that we've sent out. We sent out emails, but so most listeners are probably already aware, but the pre-order store is live. So if you're interested in pre-ordering the game, you can go to our website, earthbornegames.com, and pre-order the game right now, as well as several of the other add-ons and Kickstarter. I think there's at least... Are there any Kickstarter exclusive things on there that we need to sell out? I don't think so, but we have several other add-ons up on there. We also have a pretty new website. Corey's latest animation is on there. He animated some of the Sitka art, and it's on our main page, and it looks fantastic. So go check out the new website and pre-order the game if you haven't. We also updated a couple of our add-on products. The token pack, the premium token pack that comes with wooden tokens, we wanted to provide a full set of tokens. It previously was just the energy tokens. We wanted to provide a full set of tokens, and so we added on counter dice for progress, harm, and our general use tokens. So they're kind of cool. They've got the icon in the place of 1 pip, and they're like embossed, and then you can kind of use them as counters. So those are part of the token set now. And the other change is that we actually shrunk the main Valley playmat down. Just it was too big. It had a bunch of empty space in our when we were using it, and so we shrunk it down to kind of be a little more compact and like accurate to the game. And one of the side benefits of that is that it is now $10 cheaper because we're using less material. And so anybody who ordered that is getting a $10 credit on their account, which the credit can go towards your shipping. So basically, you'll just get that $10 back towards your shipping at the end of the day. Yeah, and other news on the product is Frosted Games showed off the game at Essen. We got a lot of really positive comments from people who checked out the game there. And Fantasia, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be showing it off at Lucca in Italy here coming up. So if you're going to be at the show, definitely swing by the booth and check out the game with Fantasia.
Do it. Cool. Pre-orders up. That's exciting. It's coming closer. Evan, do you want to share anything?
Yeah. Buddy? So I'm beginning to work on preliminary stuff for the expansion, and some of it's boring but necessary, and some of it's really exciting. So like the boring but necessary stuff is just housekeeping, improving my process, like creating more cohesive documentation to share with artists and stuff. Just because that was a learning experience, and certain aspects of my job was really slow, like art feedback, because I felt like I was starting from zero every time. If I just had a document I could open that had all the pieces that helped me explain edits already in the document, then my life would be a lot easier. So I got to work on that stuff. And then the exciting stuff is Joe has started a steady flow of like concept art for what the features and locations and beings might look like for the upcoming expansion. And I don't know if we're sort of trying to feed this stuff to you, Fisher, early on to maybe, I think the idea might be to help inspire you guys. Not that you don't need inspiration, but it might give you unique ideas as to how certain things might function if you have something to look at first. Because when the core game, a lot of the things you were designing didn't have us, like we didn't know what it was going to look like until a little bit later. So this time around, it'll be a slightly new experience.
Yeah, we kind of a mix. Like,
yeah.
Certain parts of the expansion content have been done for a while. Brooks designed a bunch of our terrain already, so a lot of like the fundamentals are done. But there's some like story specific stuff that we haven't designed yet for the expansion because we've been focusing on the core game. This is the campaign expansion, and so kind of taking an art driven approach to designing them is kind of fun. Where you guys can kind of sky's the limit, draw a bunch of stuff, and then we kind of look at that art and use it for kind of inspiration as to how the thing will function in the end.
Yeah. So that's really cool. It reminds me of how ILM worked in the early days when George Lucas was filming in London, and people were making TIE fighters and X-Wing models in California or wherever. Like they're just making things, and that became so iconic. They weren't really directed by George. They were just being made, and he signed off on some things. Anyways, the last thing I'm looking forward to getting into is just starting to make some concept sketches for what some new ranger roles might look like. which is exciting. And like the stuff Joe's making, it's nice to have hindsight and have a better understanding of what the people of the valley look like, so I can make more informed decisions on what gear and clothing looks like, and lean into that more heavily and have a lot more fun with it. Because early on, some, like, at least 2 of the Ranger pieces were made so early where none of us really knew what Rangers looked like, and we just started making stuff. So
yeah, like a lot of the visual world building of the valley wasn't done yet.
Yeah.
Or even started.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
That's super exciting. It's very cool to see Joe's sketches coming in on all the kind of ideas for the arcology and what we might explore down there. It's cool because, you know, we've focused so much on like the above ground stuff that seeing some of the underground stuff has it's cool to kind of get some variety in our lives.
Exciting times, everybody. Well, we already talked about what we like, so that brings us to the end of the kids table. Pre-order the game, everybody. Tell your friends about it. Fisher, plug it.
You just did.
Plug it better.
Pre-orders. The game is wrapping up, and we're getting ready to send it to the factory, and pre-orders are up. So the more games we get sold now, the faster our second printing and more content will come. So share the game, talk about the game on social media, point people towards our pre-order store. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for listening to the show, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.
Cool.